tracked at all. He's got Bamford waiting. He's got Alioski.
Oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What a head!
The 2020-2021 football season has come to a close. Despite the fact that for the vast majority of it, fans were not in attendance, this season was a cracker. So many incredible stories came out of it, with some surprise packages to be sure. However, as always, there were some very, very big winners, and there was Arsenal. In any case, I thought it would be fun and something a bit different to my other videos thus far to do a bit of a recap of the recent season gone by. Let's see how this one pans out. With that being said, how good was the 2020-21 football season? What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Let's jump right in and kick things off with the winners. Now this is where most of the excitement stemmed from this season. In the top 5 leagues of world football, new champions were crowned in 4 of them. There's just something about that fact that I really like. But you know what else I like? This video. Going over to Italy first, and we had Juventus coming into the season having won 9 of the previous Serie A titles. 9. Seriously, how have we sat back and allowed this kind of dominance to even be possible in the modern game? All the way back in 2011, an AC Milan side spearheaded by Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Alexandre Pato and Robinho took home the title with a 6-point cushion at the top. Juventus, on the other hand, finished 24 points below them in 7th place. However, the season after that, they went invincible and kicked off a 9-year rampage. The man that managed them to the first of these triumphs? Antonio Conte. In all honesty, we shouldn't be surprised that it took the man that started this winning streak to end it. Inter Milan were on fire this season. Big Rom finally picked up his first major trophy in a top 5 league. Kinda mad that it only happened for him at 28 years of age. Simply due to the fact that he was bullying grown men as a teenager, it's easy to forget just how long he's been around for. In fact, he's been around for so long that apparently he's now a boxing announcer?
Let's get ready to rumble!
Anyway, Juventus were down bad this season. Pirlo was clearly not ready for the job, and even the mighty Cristiano Ronaldo could not carry the team to their 10th straight title, which is mad considering the man's numbers. In just 3 seasons at Juve, he scored 101 goals and made 22 assists in 133 matches. It's ridiculous that this man will be 37 in under a year, but hearing those stats doesn't surprise anyone. Despite this, his efforts along with the rest of the team only just managed to help Juventus sneak into the top 4. Apart from Inter, this season's Serie A has to have been one of the wildest races for Champions League spots I've ever seen. However, perhaps there is hope for the rest of the league yet. With a mic drop of all mic drops, Conte dipped after bringing the title back to San Siro. The main reasoning for this departure is seemingly the financial position of the holding company that owns Inter Milan, Suning Holdings Group. Couple the instability that Conte's departure might cause in the Inter camp with the ridiculous competition that there was for the remaining Champions League spots, and what you likely get is a very unpredictable season next year. Although, I will say one thing. Perhaps Juventus' season could have gone differently had they made the transfers that they intended to at the start of the season. More specifically, things could have gone differently had Luis Suarez not cheated and subsequently failed his Italian language exam. Anyone else remember this? After Barca decided to shaft him, Juve stepped in and seemed like his most likely destination. However, as they had already filled their non-EU quota, Suarez attempted to gain Italian citizenship through his wife, who is of Italian descent. It was found through a police investigation that he was made aware of the questions in the exam before he took the actual test. I guess he just wasn't hungry enough to pass the test legitimately. Okay, I'm sorry, the joke was right there. And so he stayed in La Liga, which is a pretty good segue into the Spanish chapter of this season. After Real Madrid took La Liga the year before and Barca regressed in front of our very eyes, it seemed as though Blaugrana were taking a steep nosedive. Add their quite frankly shameful treatment of Luis Suarez to the mix, and Lionel Messi decided enough was enough. He announced his intention to leave, which quite literally brought the footballing world to a standstill, which is something I personally don't really understand. In my eyes, his transfer to West Ham had been on the cards for years at that point. It was, and still is, a matter of when and not if. Anyway, apparently Messi had a verbal agreement with Josep Bartomeu, the now ex-president of Barca, that stipulated that if he wanted to leave at the end of the season, he would allow him to do so. I mean, surely this man has built up enough goodwill to end his Barca career on his own terms. Instead, Messi was essentially held captive at Barca and had to sit through a rather underwhelming La Liga season by his standards. And that's really saying something, considering the fact that Barca won the Copa del Rey and he was the top scorer in the league for the 5th year in a row. My earlier comments about Ronaldo and his ridiculous stats not surprising anyone? Yeah, they apply here too. Speaking of Ronaldo, his former club wasn't doing all that much better. Sure, they may not have been in full meltdown mode like Barca, and they won the previous league title, but things really didn't go their way this season. I guess it doesn't help when your squad keeps picking up injuries all season, not to mention a certain Belgian costing them up to £130 million and sitting on £400,000 per week, also conveniently sitting on the nurse's bed each week. Although I rate there is still time for him to make a comeback. I mean, who knows really. In any case, it seems Zidane won't be around to see it happen though. For the second time in 3 years, Zizou has decided to step away from Los Blancos. Moving along, the other side of Madrid had significantly contrasting fortunes, thanks in large part to this guy. Wait, no, fast forward a few decades? There we go. Fun fact, Atletico Madrid have won La Liga 3 times in the past 44 years. In 1996, 2014, and 2021, Diego Simeone played a starring role in each of these victories, once as a player, twice as a manager. El Cholo is clearly Atletico through and through. And as for Luis Suarez, the man deemed unfit to lead the line for Barca scored 21 goals and made 3 assists in 38 games in all competitions with Atletico this season. The man even scored the winning goal to wrap up the title on the final day. I swear, there should just be a statue of Bartomeu built somewhere in Madrid. The man has done so much for the city. Legend. In related yet unrelated news, with Atletico Madrid's victory, Kieran Trippier became yet another player on the ever-growing list of players to leave Tottenham Hotspur and win a trophy before Harry Kane. That's tough. Another player on that list is Juan Foyth. Although he's on loan, Villarreal's Europa League victory over Manchester United meant that he picked up some silverware before Kane too. Speaking of Man United, let's move over to England. Manchester City came back strong from a comparatively subpar display in the 1920 season as well as a relatively weak start to this season. When I say comparative and relative, I am of course referring to their performances in the Premier League since about 2017. Seriously, this team is ridiculous. It took 2 full seasons of perfection from Liverpool to edge the title from them, and in one of those seasons, Liverpool earned 97 points and came second. This is what it's come to. This is what's required to push City off the podium. In the past 4 seasons, Manchester City has earned 365 points with a goal difference of 269, an average of roughly 91 points per season with an average goal difference of 67. Out of the 29 Premier League seasons that have been played to date, that average points total and goal difference is enough to have won 23 of them, including the one they just won. These guys are frighteningly good and not slowing down anytime soon. Each time they lose a key player, another one pops up to fill the gap. For example, with Ruben Dias stepping in, they filled the Vincent Kompany-sized hole in their defense that really needed patching. It's scary to think of what these guys might still accomplish in the future. They may have lost in the Champions League final, but I have no doubt that they'll be back with a vengeance in the seasons that follow. Although, speaking on the Champions League final, I will say this. I'm not going to sit around here and pretend like I know more than Pep Guardiola about football and tactical setup. I clearly do not. However, starting the game with a midfield 3 of Ilkay Gundogan, Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva was clearly not the right move in the final. I mean, we get the idea. The intention was likely to go all-out attack and suffocate Chelsea with possession. Both Foden and Silva are primarily attackers but are both full of running and can do a job in the midfield as they already have done this season. But with no midfield enforcer, gaps in the midfield such as the one that opened up for Havertz to score the winner were bound to present themselves. In fact, these gaps opened up frequently and Chelsea really should have closed the game out early on. Add on the fact that Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea are notorious for causing havoc in the transition, and you really begin to wonder why a DM was missing from City's starting lineup. Guardiola is clearly a phenomenal manager, but it just seems like ever since that last Champions League win with Barca in 2011, he just can't seem to get it right in crucial games in Europe. I wonder what the issue is here. Do you think he's just overthinking things? This seems to be too frequent of an occurrence to be a coincidence. Let me know what you think in the comments. Meanwhile, on the other side of Manchester, City's closest domestic competition missed the mark once more. While there has been progress, many are growing tired of the lack of trophies over at Old Trafford. Going into the season, United had failed to win a single piece of silverware in 3 seasons. This season makes it 4. You would have to go back to the period between 1985 and 1989 for the last time United went 4 seasons without a trophy. However, that did coincide with Sir Alex Ferguson's first few seasons with the club, and we all know how that turned out. So maybe there is hope for them yet. Having spoken earlier on what it took to dethrone Manchester City, Liverpool were always going to experience a drop-off after going full speed for almost 3 years. And the fact that Jordan Pickford decided to film his audition tape for WWE on live camera during the Merseyside derby didn't help that much. As a result of this and several other factors, Liverpool made a rather weak title defence.
It doesn't change the facts that you are bad champions. You are joint.
However, all things considered, a third place finish is a massive achievement considering their injury crisis and the obstacles that they faced over the season. On the other hand, Arsenal seem firmly in the mud. With an 8th place finish, for the first time in 25 years, they failed to qualify for any sort of European football. That's even taking into account the new UEFA Europa Conference League competition, whatever that is. I have no idea how this happened to them. Every player went missing this season and somehow Arteta avoided the sack. I mean, surely...
It's time to go!
It'll be interesting to see how Arsenal kick on from this. Elsewhere in London, Chelsea bid farewell to Frank Lampard after an abysmal start to the season. These guys were sat in 9th place by the time that Lampard was given the sack on the 25th of January. However, with Tuchel coming in, securing top 4 and winning the Champions League, this season all of a sudden became one of their most successful seasons in history. How's that happen? All of that in spite of losing in the FA Cup final and Timo Werner trying his hardest to make none of this possible. For whatever reason, having a terrible start to the season and sacking your underperforming manager during that same season is Chelsea's cheat code for Champions League success. Who would have thought? Anyway, moving along, after spending 36 out of the 38 match weeks in the top 4, Leicester somehow dropped the ball and missed out on Champions League football next year. I mean, that's gotta sting a little. However, I'm sure securing their first ever FA Cup trophy this season will go a long way to easing the pain. In other news, and perhaps the biggest story to hit the footballing world in recent times, Big Sam Allardyce's famous record for rescuing teams from relegation unfortunately came to an end. After taking over from Slaven Bilic, the West Brom job seemed too big of a task for Allardyce, and the drop was sadly inevitable. And Spurs made Jose Mourinho the first Super League manager to ever be sacked. Hats off to them. Spurs are just always making history.
But Tottenham is the history of the Tottenham.
Even the return of Gareth Bale and the fact that the Spurs front three of Bale, Son and Kane combined for 71 goals and 37 assists this season wasn't enough to help them finish above 7th. Having said that, perhaps glory in the prestigious Europa Conference League awaits them next season. In all seriousness, I'm not really sure what it's going to take for Spurs to seriously challenge for top honours. Under Pochettino, there were moments where it seemed as though things might be going in their favour, but those were unfortunately short-lived. Not that the fault rests solely on him, but he ultimately failed to make them title contenders bar 1 or 2 seasons. Similarly, in France, Poch failed to help PSG to their 8th Ligue 1 title in 9 years. Lille went on to claim their first Ligue 1 title since last winning it in 2011 when a young Eden Hazard set the league on fire. Tremendous credit where credit is due though. The story of how this Lille team slowly rose to the top and their incredible behind-the-scenes management is quite something. At a very high level, in 2017, Lille signed Nicolas Pepe from Angers for roughly £8.5 million. After finishing in 17th place as recently as 2018, Lille made some very smart moves in the years that followed. Arsenal took Pepe off their hands in 2019 for £72 million. They used that money to buy Victor Osimhen for £21 million from Charleroi and then sold him to Napoli 1 year later for £63 million. After making a big bag of roughly £135 million from those sales, they then went ahead and signed the striker Burak Yilmaz from Besiktas on a free transfer at the onset of the 2020-21 season. And if we're all being honest here, Yilmaz outperformed Osimhen this season and wasn't all that far off from Pepe's final season at Lille in terms of goals. Getting all that from a free transfer? Now that's money well spent. Or not spent. You know what I mean. And to bring this story full circle, Lille beat Angers, the club that sold Pepe to them in the first place on the final match day to secure the title. Meanwhile, Neymar was still suspiciously injured around his sister's birthday again. Seriously, how is this still a thing? The guy seemingly never plays ball in the months of March and February, even stretching back to his Barca days. Strange one that. Further to that, when it came to PSG, they appeared as mentally weak as ever in this year's Champions League semi-final against Manchester City. After things weren't going their way, they seemed to just lose the plot. Angel Di Maria of all people, one of the 3 players in the squad that has actually won the Champions League before, was sent off and really should have done better to keep his cool. Despite making their first ever Champions League final last season, they still have a long way to go before fulfilling the ambitions of Nasser Al-Khelaifi, the club's president. And to add further salt to the wounds, the man who led them to last season's Champions League final, the same man that they unceremoniously sacked in December of 2020, just won it with Chelsea. That's tough. However, one thing that I find a little hilarious but also a bit sad is that Erik Maxim Choupo-Moting seems to have some pretty rotten luck when it comes to the Champions League. In the 1920 season, he lost in the final to Bayern Munich while playing in PSG colours, and this season he transferred over to Bayern and was knocked out in the quarterfinals by PSG. Oof. Speaking of Bayern though, over in Germany, and yeah, no surprises there. Bayern walked the league. I mean, did anyone expect any different? Last season, these men won every competition they participated in, bar the DFL Super Cup. But I mean, who's counting that? Similar to Juve, Bayern will be chasing their 10th league win in a row next year. However, unlike Juve, this 10th league victory seems like a foregone conclusion. Although, they are swapping Hansi Flick with Julian Nagelsmann as the head coach, so we'll have to wait to see how that pans out. Expanding further on last season, I guess Robert Lewandowski was personally offended by not being given the chance to be awarded the Ballon d'Or he rightfully deserved.
It became personal with me.
The guy only went ahead and broke a 49-year-old record for the most goals scored in a Bundesliga season, scoring 41 goals in 29 games. His strike rate was roughly a goal every 60 minutes. What? By comparison, Gerd Müller set the previous record of 40 goals in a season in 34 matches. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that Robin Lewandowski was only one volcanic ash cloud away from joining Blackburn Rovers in 2010. Now, I'm already skeptical of whether the Ballon d'Or still holds much weight as an award, but if this man doesn't win it this year, it may lose all legitimacy in many people's eyes. Having said all of that, if Bundesliga teams manage to keep their most promising stars in Germany, I see no reason why it should take another half century to break the record. I mean, Haaland, you could break it, right?
Why not?
Okay, so we've gone over the biggest winners of the season, and that's all well and good. Let's move over to the biggest losers. All of us. The European Super League was poised to be a prestigious competition, the pinnacle of club football. The competition was set to bring all the best teams together in a mega tournament with no relegation for the founding clubs and a £4 billion pot to be shared between them. Sounds pretty good, right?
I'm disgusted, absolutely disgusted.
Having said that, it's strange that this mega tournament only lasted about 4 days before all but 3 teams officially pulled out. But maybe we shouldn't be so hard on the minds behind this tournament, more specifically with regards to Florentino Perez. After all, he was trying to save football. In any case, the footballing world spoke out, and it seems reform is high on the agendas for many footballing governing bodies and actual governments alike. The owners of the biggest teams in Europe showed their true colours in the midst of the Super League debacle, and fans were quick to let their voices be heard. Although, whether the voices of supporters were truly heard is still yet to be seen. And there we have it. What did you guys think of the 2020-21 football season? What part of it caught your eye and what part did I miss out? Please feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you have on the season or on the video in general in the comments below. Anyway, that's all from me. Really enjoyed putting this one together. Stay tuned for more in the future, and I'll catch you in the next one.